Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Think Suburbia, the podcast of the Suburban Virginia Republican Coalition, the SUVGOP. Welcome to our latest Zoom podcast. I'm Mike Ginsberg. I'm one of the hosts of the podcast and one of the founders of the SUVGOP.
Hi, I'm Jill Cook. I'm one of the other founders of SUVGOP and the co-host of the podcast. And I want to introduce today's guest, our dear friend, Puneet Ahluwalia. He is a Fairfax businessman, a longtime Republican activist in Northern Virginia, founder of the Proud American PAC, and as of this morning, a candidate for Lieutenant Governor in 2021. He's been very active in the Indian American community, talking about our Republican message, which is particularly important as Asian Americans are the fastest growing community in Fairfax County. So Puneet, welcome to the podcast. And we caught you in your very, very busy life on the road. Thank you for joining us in the midst of your very important activities.
Thank you, my campaign spouse and Jill and Mike and everybody who are the founders and leaders of the SUVGOP. And I think it was a very needed platform for engaging the active suburban folks who really feel that they don't have a voice. And you have created a wonderful platform for them to speak and be heard.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I'm proud to be part of it, and I'm happy to be here.
Thank you, Puneet. That's wonderful. Well, let's start with the basics. How did you come to be a Republican?
It's the ideological aspect because, you know, when most immigrants come to the country, they are gravitated towards the Democratic Party because they equate democracy with Democrats. And so for some reason, there is this perception that the Republican Party is of all white folks. And then I have a good friend of mine who also happened to be the chief of staff to Governor Hogan, Sam Malhotra. Him and I have been friends for over close to 28 years. And he told me the ideological difference between the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. And that's when almost close to 20 years ago, I became a Republican for low taxes, less red tape, or limited red tape, and strong defense, and more importantly, individual rights, and most importantly, believing in the Constitution and Second Amendment, which is very close to me as a Sikh American, that I believe in the right to protect myself, my family, and my community. So these are things which gravitated me towards the Republican philosophy, ideology, the free market enterprise. And the most important thing for most immigrants or people who have come to this great nation is that your ability to write your own destiny. There is no ceiling. It's up to you how hard you work, how much you sacrifice, what you give back, and what you get is equal to it. Sometimes you may not be that blessed, but I can speak for myself, my family, and the people I've seen in my realm of friendships and relationships. Everybody has excelled. This country is so great, so phenomenal. Hence the reason I'm a proud American. And now it's my time to be a citizen, a soldier, and a patriot to do something for my state and my great country.
No, that's great. That's very inspiring. I mean, it's a great and inspiring story. And obviously you haven't just been, like you say, you haven't just been a Republican, but you've been an active Republican for many years. I mean, tell us a little bit about sort of the things you've done in the past in terms of your activism and also your involvement with the various communities, the suburban communities that we have here in Virginia.
Well, I would first say I want to thank Congressman Tom Davis, who invited me to a roundtable for the Asian American leaders, and there Harold Payan from the community, the Korean community, and Valley Dietrich from the Filipino community held my hand and brought me in because there were not many active Indian Americans 20 years ago. We had people who were Sudhakar Shenoys, who were big donors, great people, great leaders, but they're not very active Republicans. So I started coming to the FCRC and, did not know what to do. And I used to host events, fundraisers at my home during the successful, great time when I had a 12,000 square feet mansion. And I opened my doors because I think part of activism is not only just writing checks, but being there at door knocking or basically messaging. And most importantly, being a community activist who represents just not the community, but the faith, ideology. That's the reason how I've participated in various capacities for various candidates for almost 20 years.
Can I just intervene here? When
Yes,
I was
please.
the district chair, Puneet was one of my precinct poll workers. I can verify that he was there handing out literature and standing at the table and greeting the voters. So you've done the grassroots stuff as well as others.
And I love the grassroots, because the other day I went to knock on, last week sometime, we went to knock on doors with the Boyds. And I think the feeling when people see somebody from their own heritage being and walking, they realize, wow, the Republican Party is very diverse. And just by standing, just by arriving, just by being active, you are able to win through addition. And that's what we are trying to do for the last so many years. But now I think we have an SUVGOP platform and the Proud American PAC platform to really do a deeper drive into these communities.
Tell us, that was our next question. Tell us all about the Proud American PAC. Tell us about that and its goals.
Well, I'll tell you, the Democrats have long played the identity politics or racist politics. And it so happened that after, in January, I realized that the Democrats have the full control. And then I started seeing the governor taking this country into a different direction. And then tragically, we had the Floyd case that happened, which was a tragedy. And the narrative started to build about a divided America. And to me, I was very heartbroken, because I know we have 8 billion people in the world. And I can guarantee you 4 billion would like to be in the United States. So, you know, we were kind of thinking what should be the great name. And luckily, almost a year ago, I had blocked Proud American PAC when I decided to run for another office. And this was the right time to come up with the foundational principles of this great nation, that I'm proud of this country. I'm proud of this country for what it offers, for what values it has, and what it does, what a hope and beacon it is for democracies, for people all around the world. Look at the people in China, especially in Hong Kong, or the Uyghurs, or the Rohingyas, or the Kurds, and you name it. We are a beacon of hope and a sense of balance in the world. And I'm a proud American, and I believe that was the fundamental aspect of founding the Proud American PAC. And then most importantly, I also realized that we don't have a great message. So you need a message and a messenger. So I found Proud American PAC to be the message and the messenger of being inclusive, of being a unifier. And most importantly, with the communities which are now really growing, as you said earlier, the Asian American community is really effectively growing. But I'm not just kind of holding to the Asian Americans. I'm looking at the African Americans. I'm looking at any and every proud American. That could be also white folks, Jewish folks, Christian folks, everybody who takes pride in this great nation for what we stand for. They are part of Proud American PAC. That's how I look at it.
That's great. That's great. What are some of the messages that the Proud American PAC, is releasing out to the public? And what is the mission? What is the goal of Proud American PAC?
Well, it's important to convey to the people is the fundamentals of the Proud American PAC is the political ideology. I'll say that, look, our country has slowly gravitated towards socialism. And I can bet you that in the next 10 years, if we don't stop to it, it'll become a communist country. So one was to basically show the freedom, the growth, and the opportunity this country has to offer. So these are the fundamental aspects. So what I'm trying to do, being the message and the messenger, is that why socialism and freebies, there's no free lunch in America. We all work hard, we all sacrifice hard, and we get rewarded. In some cases, some more, some less, but at least you have the freedom. The second is the religious freedom that's given to any American or anything they want to pursue in terms of faith. The minority rights, it's a level play field, and I've seen so many people from the Asian American community and from Ethiopian community and all from conservative community who have done and excelled very well. So these are things which somehow or the other, the Democrats have taken an ownership on this narrative, and I'm trying to say, no, there are a lot of successful cases from different communities who are part of this success story, and I'm trying to highlight those success stories through the Proud American PAC. At the same time, shattering the myth which the Democrats have created through the Hollywood, through the CNN and the MSNBC, and pressure on the social media platforms. And the other thing which I also realized that we don't talk about certain issues beside conservative issues. We also know that I'm strong on Second Amendment and pro-life. I have stories to tell on that. But I also want to go into areas about talking about sensitive issues on racism. I want to talk about issues on how do we have a positive approach to the climate change. What is the conservative perspective on that? And how do we want to share those success stories of our entrepreneurship, our innovation as Americans, and share it with other countries so that we can reduce the carbon footprint. And most importantly, one of the other key platform is jobs, because I'm a small business guy, and especially after the pandemic, I saw that people will be really desperate and frustrated. So my goal is to be a pro-business guy who's a common sense person to create jobs. And I have found in my conversation when I've gone to the 5th district, the 7th district, and the rural areas, that we need to have a conversation about broadband in these communities, because education is the only way that we can lift off communities from the desperate poverty and the issues they are facing on a daily basis, and even health crisis. So these are things which I am trying to promote through Proud American PAC. And then we announced our run for Lieutenant Governor. And this is going to be, creating jobs is going to be one of the key areas. And not only just creating jobs, how to influence communities to become self-sufficient through education and through small business enterprise, which is the backbone of this great nation.
So can we pull that back a little bit? Because that was a really great big view.
I know. I just
focused on the suburban, since we are the SUV GOP. How do you feel that your, what messages might resonate? You live in the suburbia. You and I live in the same town, so we're in suburbia. So how can we get that message out that we as a Republican Party can really help the suburban population, because we seem to be losing them?
I'll give you a prime example. I met with folks who are from the minority communities. I'm a Sikh American, proud, and I met with a community which is a Muslim community, and also they are also a large minority, but in huge presence in United States and more in Northern Virginia and Virginia. And myself being there, I think they could identify with me, not that I'm from the same faith, but the race aspect and their ability to just gravitate and open some questions with me. And there you can have an open dialogue. Sometimes people, you have to break bread. You have to get to know them socially, personally, culturally, and their protocols, which sometimes we don't understand, we don't know. In our culture, we always stand up again when the elders come in. In some cases, we don't even look eye to eye with folks because it's disrespectful. And luckily for me, I've traveled all around the world and I understand those protocols, especially in the Middle East, from all the way to Southeast Asia to the Middle East, and especially some of the African-American cultures, which I understand very well. So, and the best part is I've been immersed in the mainstream politics and the mainstream community for a long time. So I understand the mainstream American culture. What we are trying to do through SUVGOP and Proud American PAC is bring them all together. So you are a catalyst, I'm a catalyst, and that's what we're trying to do is drive the point home that the Republican Party is a commonsensical party, and it's a party for all commonsensical people, which is not so common in the other side. And most importantly, and the most important other aspect it is, this is not them, it is about us as a nation. And I'm also talking about the moral direction of this country, where it's headed to. Because we are at a crossroad right now. If we don't change the direction of our country, and I am not able to talk to my folks who are somewhat oblivion, because what they're doing is every immigrant for the first 10 to 15 years is more focused on paying his mortgage, paying his bills, and raising his family. And suddenly he notices all around that now I'm living in a socialist and then a communist country. My goal is to get that message to those folks who are not realizing how sensitive times we are living in and how important this 2020 election is, that electing Alicia Andrews, Daniel Gate, Nick Freitas, Bob Good, and Scott Taylor, and Rob Whitman, of course, all these great candidates is so important that it is our founding, the dream of the founding fathers of this nation is completely at stake.
You're right.
Anyway.
No, you're absolutely right about that, Puneet. We cannot emphasize that enough. And I think I love that your point that they may not be aware, because they're not as active as all of us are, that their non-voting or their apathy can lead to a disastrous takeover of communism. So we need to bring the message to these communities.
And when they, and the other thing is to build on that is when they talk about defunding the police, which is uncommon, which is so bizarre that they're coming up with this narrative of defunding the police. And most of these Indians or most of these Asians and most of the people from the immigrant communities of Africa and Asia, they've seen how the brutal the autocratic regimes are. They have the first-hand experience. But if somebody like me say, look, remember what happened in your country at this point? Well, then it starts to say, well, they can start putting two and two together, because what happened in how the Democrats legitimized the riots, the looting, and in a way it's an expression, is unexplainable and unbelievable. And that's what I'm trying to say to people. Look, this is slowly how they're basically boiling you in a pot, and then it'll become too hot for you to jump out. So you'll become like a frog who's not able to come out.
Right. How do we, I mean, this is, you make excellent points. I mean, these are all very good points. And, look, this is something the Republican Party has really, certainly with SUVGOP, in Northern Virginia, throughout Virginia, really, we've been trying to crack for a long time, is how do we speak to these new growing immigrant populations? And what is your take on that? I mean, what do you think the best approach is for the Republican Party to make that case and to do it in a sustained and lasting way, not just sort of popping in at the election and popping out, but building that sustained engagement with these growing communities in North Virginia?
Well, first thing is I have to say SUVGOP ads, which you've had, why you're important. I've seen those community ads you've taken with Indian American communities, Sri Lanka and others. Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Yeah. And that's what it is. People, it's just simply is that they want to be recognized they're here. At the same time, they also want to be respected and appreciated. And their values are not very different than our values. It's about education, raising a family. It's about protecting the way of life, the American way of life. But the important thing is that we have never invested in these communities. And I'll give you one reason for the last 11 years why we've lost statewide elections, because we only show up, as you said, 6 months or 8 months before the election. We've never had people from, I'll give you an example, from Asian American community in any kind of key leadership positions. And when we found a way, let's find a way to kick him off. And I would say Matt Ames was the first one who had me as first vice chair. And we made great inroads at that time. And if you see, the SUVGOP Dream Team came from that time under Matt Ames. So you see, when you do good effort, it leads to efforts greater like SUVGOP and Proud American PAC. But it's not been a sustained effort. And I'll give you the reason. The campaigns look at return on investment. How much money are we going to get from this community? And the community is saying how much they really want to be engaged with us. So we keep playing poker, and in the meantime, we're losing the game. And we've lost for the last 11 years. But now we're going to win. We're going to win hopefully in 2020, and definitely in 2021, because I intend to be the next lieutenant governor of Virginia. Because I believe that my message, as a messenger, and for the values I have in the Republican Party, and I'm not playing identity politics, I'm talking is that I am a proud American who strongly believes in conservative values, and also looking to exceed on talking about discussions which are important to mainstream Americans, which are suburban Americans. What education, be it on climate change, be it on safety education, on civil liberties, on protection. We can't afford to defund our police, but we have to have a civil dialogue, a respectable dialogue. And that's what is the other thing which I want to bring out. It's not that the Democrats are going to vanish tomorrow or day after. I'm going to see them again. But I want to create a civil dialogue, because that's what democracies do. We may have a discourse in opinion, but I do want to sit down and talk to folks and say, we may not agree with you on 10 things. We may agree on 3 things, but that's a start. That's what I want to do.
Exactly. And Puneet, I want to go back to one thing, because twice in this last little brief, you mentioned education. And I know we're running out of time. There's a long list of things we wanted to talk to you. We'll have you on again
Please,
to talk about this.
Honored.
But one thing that's near and dear to my heart is Thomas Jefferson High School. since my son is a graduate. And the stuff that's going on there, that is, what do you have to say about that?
Well, I'm a strong believer of merit.
Do you want to explain? I kind of just introduced that. You want to explain what they're trying to do there?
Well, I don't want to make it into a community issue, because there are a lot of Indian American kids who go into that school, and I'm proud Indian American, but I'm speaking as a proud American. I believe that we have a great standard where there are basically no bars. If you work hard, you study hard, and you pass the exam based on your knowledge and intelligence, you should be coming into that school. There should not be a special reservation, which has not led to any place of success. Because what you're doing is you're basically positioning that child to failure in the future. I'm sorry to say that. So I'm a firm believer on merit, and I'm a firm believer of people with the right academic, intellectual capacity to do, to be part of it. And for some reason, if the parents want to take an extra time on teaching their kids and extra classes, sure, make your child elevate to that position so that he can get the best of knowledge and the best of education. That's where I'm coming from.
Yeah, there's a reason schools like that exist.
Exactly.
School, and it's merit-based, yeah.
And I'm a big, you see, we've seen how the school systems have kind of squandered away money, and I understand they're basically driving empty buses to justify the salaries of the school bus drivers. That's ludicrous. That's our taxpayer money. I want that money to go to parents to choose how they want to teach their kid. I'll give you one prime example. My own daughter, she wants to be a fashion designer, but she can't go to VCU or JMU because of her health reason. I would see that we have such a great intellectual capacity of professors and educators. Why can't we do that on Zoom? Let's find new innovative ways in making education so simple, but also in control of the parents and the family. Because guess what? You pay $250,000 for somebody to educate from college, and then what do you really have for? It's just a piece of stamp of paper. And thanks to President Trump, that we have basically you don't need a college degree to get into school. If you have the merits, you have the talent and the expertise, you should get the job.
Yeah. That's like a basic principle. I love that. Yes.
That's Republican principles.
No, that's great. That's great. Well, we're getting sort of toward the end of our time. I don't know if any other topics we wanted to hit. Certainly, if you have a website or a social media presence that you'd like to tell our viewers about, that would be great.
Well, if you want to watch our videos and my message in the last 2 months, we have them on proudamericanpac.com. But also to watch is Puneet, which is my first name, is Puneet, for FORLG, Lieutenant Governor, or number 4, or Puneet for Virginia. We have all these websites. So please give me an opportunity to earn your support, to earn your vote. And if you feel that I am the candidate who has the right values and the right fundamentals, do write me a check or pay online. I really need support, because as you all understand, politics is about fundraising, but it's also about the message. And I'm proud American. I'm a patriot. And I'll give one more thing. When I wish he was president, Governor Allen used to call patriots, and he would call them. And I would look at patriots, and I couldn't feel it. But come April of this year, I felt like a patriot. I had to come out and run. I had to take an act upon and be a responsible citizen to take back my republic, to take back my state. That's the reason why I decided to run for LG. My wife and I and my 3 kids and 2 dogs, we were happy. We were blessed to have such a great blessing for being in this great nation and having a comfortable life. But I believe that I have to come out of my comfort zone and to be the catalyst, to be the unifier, and win this for my party, for my state, and for my country. Hence the reason, Puneet for LG.com.
Thank you so much, Puneet. This was great. You're a good friend. We enjoy hearing your wonderful plans. And, we'll be doing this, after the 2020 elections. So we're going to be in high gear with our 2021 candidates. So we'll certainly hear more from you then.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And right now, let's get Alicia Andrews, Daniel Gade, Nick Freitas, and Bob Good across the finish line, and Scott Taylor. Thank
And
you.
Rob
Robert.
Woodman.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you all. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, John. Thank you, Jill. Thank you, everyone.
No, thank
Bye.
you. Thank you. No, we really do appreciate it. And, you know, it's great what you've done for the party. It's great what you're doing now. You know, you've been a great resource and a great leader for the party for years. So it's great to have you on and wish you the best of luck in everything. We hope that all of you have enjoyed today's podcast. If you did, please do visit our website, SUVGOP.com, and go to the drop-down menu of SUVGOP podcasts. You'll be able to see all of our podcasts from this year, from last year. We have a lot of great folks who have talked to us about different things, and really will give you a good feel for a lot of what is going on now, including several podcasts we've done on the upcoming redistricting amendment. And I would especially encourage you to watch that in preparation for voting on November 3rd. So with that, thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again on another edition of Think Suburbia.